If you know someone and it seems like their marriage is highly conflicted, you can feel that something's off, but you know you can't come right out and say it. If the opportunity provides space for it, please forward any of my videos to her. Those of us stuck in this kind of Stockholm syndrome, we're blind to the difference of the attention we receive from a male. We cannot tell the difference between abuse and love. My purpose on this channel is to help heal broken feminine hearts. It's my hope that by sharing my journey of how our God took me from abused and broken to a strong and shrewd daughter of his own, how he woke me up to the reality of evil and set me on his path of healing and wholeness. There's two possible outcomes with this knowledge. The first is that it will help a wife bring a feminine embodiment into a marriage that's difficult, and it eases the tension that's negative. The second outcome is the discovery that she's actually married to a wolf in sheep's clothing. How healing will take away from the dangerous man the personal governance of her life and priorities, build her confidence in our God, and grow her boundaries so that she can safely gray rock that covert narcissist out of her life. Today I want to talk about how wrong the teaching is that tells wives to respect a husband like she's obeying a command from the Lord. The least of its impact is frustrating, rendering marriages impotent, but far worse is the effect of how dangerous it is if you're married to a wolf in sheep's clothing. If you've been listening here for a bit, you know that I lean into this concept a lot. I do because it was one of the revelations that God used to wake me up to the fact that I was living in covert domestic violence. So here it is again. Showing appreciation for your husband like it's a command from the Lord is wrong. Respecting unrespectable behavior will wreck you. God knows how he created men to think. Men are action-oriented creatures, not like us women. We're feelings-based, creatures of being. When you're treated crummy by a difficult husband, thoughtless and careless, or worse, abused by a dangerous man, and you respond to him with respect and honor, that response that keeps you connected to him sends the unspoken message of, yes, this is the way I want to be treated. Keep doing it. That's how all men learn. The difficult ones and the toxic ones. They just have opposite motives. A healthy man has intentional relationship in mind. He wants to connect his masculinity with your femininity. He uses the information he learns to love you better and to build you up, along with building the world that you and he and your family exist in, the kingdom you both rule. The intention of a wolf, though, is to hurt you and tear you down with the information. He uses his world and everyone in it to elevate himself up by stepping upon everyone and everything in his sphere. His intention is to not build up his kingdom, only himself. With a difficult husband, he unintentionally hurts you in relationship because he doesn't know any better. We try and make it better by communicating through words, but what usually happens is that we communicate with our men like they're females. That communication's wrong. It confuses a healthy man. You're telling him one thing with your words, don't treat me that crummy way, whatever it is he did that you don't like, or however it is that he's treating you. Yet, with your actions of respecting him and staying connected in the relationship, you're demonstrating that it is acceptable. Your words say he's wrong, but your actions tell him he's right. That's baffling for him because it's two different messages to a healthy man. Communicating through actions is the primary way, not the only way, but the primary way a healthy man wants you to transfer information to him. Then he does the work of figuring it out. That's how masculinity achieves and conquers. They solve problems. They don't want you to tell them what to do and how to do it. A healthy man doesn't want to be the passive receiver of the solution from you. He doesn't want you to teach him. You don't teach a grown man, you teach children. You train a man through your actions. But with a dangerous man, it's the opposite. Talking is exactly how he wants you to communicate with him. He wants to receive intel about you in an effortless and easy way. He doesn't want to do the work. You talking about your hurts and pains and fears and vulnerabilities and hopes and dreams in an open and transparent way gives him an abundance of knowledgeable ways to create more chaos, more crisis, more pain, and more drama when he's around you. His motive is not to be a better husband. A covert narcissist is already perfect. It's his wife and family and extended family and workmates or neighbors or anyone else that are the problem. They have all the problems. They are the ones that put the problems inside of him. It's never him that needs to change, heal, grow, or mature. It's always others victimizing him and making his life hard. God knew there'd be wolves in sheep's clothing in the church, malignant men pretending to be Christians. That's why he gave his daughters this most precious and protective gift in our femininity, our feelings. The problem is that we've been told that femininity is wrong. The shepherds on this side of the cross have stripped us of our feminine strength, power, and more importantly, our self-protection. I want you to know that you can recover from that thinking. God will heal and restore that within you. That's why when there's a conflict in marriage, when you've been sinned against, or not even sinned against, just everyday living with each other, there's hurt feelings. Marriage is a tight and close living quarters to share with another human being. In conflict, God tells wives in 1 Peter 3 not to talk. My question has always been, well, if I can't talk about it, how's he supposed to know? None of us are mind readers. But what God means is don't communicate with your husband through your words what he did wrong. It doesn't make sense, does it? I think what God means is let your verbal communication be about how you feel. A healed and healthy woman, she owns her personal emotional experience. She owns how she feels. And then she lets her behavior be congruent with those emotional feelings. What is more pure and reverent than courage, truth, honesty, and authentic life? Taken literally, and what I mean when I say taken literally is when it comes to the relationship verses is when we read this in our masculine head, this verse means, let's say your anniversary came and went and there was no acknowledgement and you say nothing. Just continue to act pious and good and God will vindicate you. Live, love, laugh, and forgive. And don't talk about it. And do not be hurt or feel unloved. Just let your feminine heart be crushed in silence again. Instead of being authentic, honest, and truthful, I lied in agreement because this is a true story. When he said with a laugh, "Wow, our anniversary was yesterday. I forgot." I knew if I tried to talk about it, it would get turned around because that's what always happened whenever I tried to explain that my feelings were hurt. It was reframed as me being too sensitive. Because it was never his intention to hurt me, I shouldn't be hurt. If I didn't swing back around with a smile and say, "It's okay, I understand," as I lied to myself and to him, he would level up his game and turn it so I would appear like I was abusing him. He would say things like, "You never accept me just the way I am. I'm not allowed to make a mistake. You're trying to grind my mistakes into me. You're trying to rub my nose in my mistakes." That it wasn't fair to him and that I should not be hurt. I didn't have the right to be hurt because he never meant it. This strategy is called Darvo. When this same exchange happens between 20 times and 2,000 times with the same person, you've got to believe me when I say their intention is to hurt you. It's not to change. Don't be duped. If you're married to a dangerous man, covert narcissists do not forget anything. Information is their stock in trade. He didn't forget our anniversary. He just said he did to try and bait me into a fight. It's not really about making you look bad, although that is part of it. You do look bad, but the whole purpose of making you look bad, feel bad, is so that you fight back. So when you're looking at this through the masculine view of 1 Peter 3, it seems like you've only got two options. You either take the mistreatment, the abuse, the sin, you just take it, or you fight about it, which is what happens when you point it out, because their intention is to hurt. 1 Peter 3 seems to maneuver a woman into a no-win situation when she's been sinned against by her husband. And you're right. It is a no-win situation as long as you follow that masculine mindset. However, there's a third option that no one has taught us. This third option is activated by something I call the hina principle, found in Ephesians 5:33. I couldn't see it, though, until I started to heal in my feminine heart. You don't stop being an estrogen-based being because you get married. The role of a wife doesn't replace your femininity. You're still all woman. Even as a wife, your primary operating system will always be estrogen. It's how God created you. When we learn about 1 Peter 3 in the absence of the hina principle in Ephesians 5, this is incomplete teaching. It puts broken and unhealed women in dangerous positions. I've put some links in the description box where I talk about the hina principle in more depth. For now, I'm leaning more into the way these two verses in Scripture fit together. In Ephesians 5, Paul tells husbands, pay attention to how your wife responds to you. Said another way, that means look more at her nonverbal communication, her behavior as it relates to you. And in 1 Peter 3, Peter tells wives to respond without criticizing your husband, but through your honest and authentic behavior. Do you see? Peter tells wives to be a certain way, and Paul tells husbands to look for that certain way. The two verses fit together seamlessly for the one flesh relationship to grow and mature. Anything less than that true and authentic response that Peter's talking about cripples your husband and stops the relationship from growing. And how can you love others with a love that deceives itself? It's not congruent. Mark 12:30. When you deny emotional pain, you deceive yourself because you're telling your head to lie to your heart. You deceive your husband by respecting him. You're leading him to believe that his treatment of you maintains the connection between the two of you, but your heart is disconnected because it's wounded. The one flesh relationship, the friendship part, is now at odds because of unresolved conflict from being sinned against. But you can still operate in your responsibility of the role. You can still do your part of the division of labor that goes into the practical running of the home and the marriage. In the same way, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands so that I want to stop right here. That's what the submission part is about, the role of a wife. There's no relationship here. This is not about the one flesh part that's alive and being known. It's not about friendship, fun, romance, or sex. It's about order of operations and functionability. Hupotasso is a military term of structure. It means having the attitude of being willing to carry your part of the burden or responsibility. We don't get the option to drop our part of the responsibility. You carry one part of the functional structure. Your husband carries a different part. Simple as that. Then Peter says, even if some disobey the word. He's talking about a relational offense, not sin, not character development or righteousness, not how your husband's behavior is with other people, whether he's at church or activities or work, or even how he is with the kids. Peter is talking about how he is in relationship with you. You're not your husband's mother or teacher, you're his wife. He's not wired to listen to you that way. So when you correct his behavior or character with words and instructions as it relates to people, he shuts you out. Nowhere in Scripture does God tell a wife to instruct her husband like a child and to teach him the same way you do with your kids. So what can Peter mean then? He means when your husband is difficult towards you, when he's hard-hearted with you, when he's daft or clueless and just unpersuadable, when he's not understanding your needs and wants and how you are as a woman. In the tradition of masculine understanding, it wants to keep these verses to wives in 1 Peter 3 in the black and white and make it about theology only, that it's only about if the husband is a believer or not a believer. They want to make it about right and wrong in an arbitrary way of describing sin. That is what made 1 Peter 3 verses 1 through 2 so confusing to my feminine heart. The unspoken message from that masculine perspective is that a wife should be judging her husband's character, that it's her responsibility to decide when and what behaviors are disobedient to the word. Peter's not telling wives you get to define what it means to disobey the word for your husband. This verse doesn't entitle you to have the definitive view of evil or good or right or wrong. Peter is making the opposite point by drawing a definitive line between the role of a wife and a woman being in relationship with a man. In the setting of marriage and in this context, the verse is about relationship. He's addressing wives. We need to understand this verse from a female perspective, not male interpretation. As a subordinate in the role, you don't have the final say, but you do get the final say in what treatment you will accept in relationship. You do get the right to govern your mind, heart, and soul with responsible stewardship of self. These are boundaries. When Peter says the word, he's not referring to Scripture like the law. Nope, it's about you. It's about how your husband is with you, not others, who you are, what you need and want, how he listens to your words, so that you can be friends with him in relationship. Winning over your husband is not about wooing him away from sin by your pious behavior and stoic religious works. That interpretation has flipped the weight of both the responsibility and the headship onto the wife. She's the weaker vessel relationship and the subordinating component in the structure. That view crushes femininity. It's about training him about you. This is how you help your husband. Helping isn't about the functional role. It's about relationship. How to be a better friend with you. You can win him over by how you are or not how you are with him. When God said it's not good for man to be alone, he meant because of relationship, not functional role. I believe God has designed it this way on purpose. He has created a perfect relationship polarity between the masculine and the feminine. But the church has ignored the feminine part. So we've not learned how to appreciate this beautiful and sexy polarity between men and women, and how beneficial it is for us, and how it keeps women safe. When your husband is difficult towards you, when he's relationally negligent or cold-hearted, and he refuses to understand you, Peter isn't telling you to submit to it and just ignore it. He's telling you to pull back from him, to pull back from the man, pull back from the source of emotional pain. Paul's telling wives the same thing in Ephesians 5. Reflect the truth of what you're feeling. Don't lie because you want to look like you're part of a couple. Don't pretend to be a wife that's loved when you're not. It's the same message from both Peter and Paul. They've just worded it differently. The truth about your femininity is the shrewdness that guards your heart. Feminine boundaries will keep you safe because they keep wolves out. A difficult husband will move towards you because he will feel the loss of your presence when you pull back. He will work at solving the problem. He'll make the effort to cleave, to get back to your heart when he realizes that he's failed at it. I know God has put the responsibility of cleaving on husbands because he says so in 1 Peter 3. Husbands, live with your wives according to who they are. Learn about them so you can appreciate how and why they are the weaker vessel in relationship. Understand who they are so that you can honor them. Your boundaries will actually invite the healing and growth found in healthy relationship. Healthy masculinity will work at understanding femininity because he wants to honor a woman. And like I always say, you will feel being cleaved to in your heart. It's not what seems to be like cleaving. It's not what you think is cleaving. If you can't feel it, it's because you're analyzing. Confusion and ambiguity bring analyzing and questioning instead of emotion and feeling, because that's the territory of the dangerous man, because he lives in your head, not in your heart. You just think he's in your heart. Everything in your marriage is a charade, the opposite of what Peter and Paul say, but it seems real. You never feel understood. It only seems like you are. You never feel like you truly fit together as one flesh living in a relationship that benefits the both of you. It just seems like you are. You never feel honored. It just seems like you are. Your heart doesn't actually experience the feeling of being loved. It just seems like you do. Closing thoughts. First, shh. Don't say a word about this to him. Discovering that your husband's dangerous is a scary place to end up. It's never where you thought you'd be, and it feels like an unreality. But your silence about your awareness of what he really is, that's your safety zone. And always remember, a clueless guy that causes dysfunction and seems difficult, he's not dangerous. But the malignant man is not clueless. He just pretends to be difficult and dysfunctional. so that he can hide how dangerous he is.